Here we go with question number 1. How to get started in the process of buying, identifying a vacation home. First things first, I get a lot of buyers that want all the information, right? But they haven't even pulled their credit report. In fact, they don't even know what their credit score is. And oftentimes as a mortgage guy, and that's how I originally got a start in the business, fresh out of college, which has been a real blessing, actually. And a lot of realtors should probably learn a little bit more about what I'm going to discuss. And that is how to identify a buyer that is going to waste your time and help set them up for failure, or versus a buyer that is reasonable with their expectations and is actually living a life in alignment with what you can help them succeed with. And that is ultimately identifying a home, closing on the home that is in line with what they're looking for. So first things first, what's your credit score? If you don't know, there's an app that I think you should download, and it's something that I did, and it's been really helpful, and I recommend a lot of people to do, and it's called Credit Karma. And Credit and Karma starts with a K, okay? Download the app, take 15 minutes, put in your personal information, make sure you're very accurate, and then voila, you're in. It'll tell you what 2 of the 3 of your credit scores are. It'll also tell you what accounts that you have reporting on your credit and what the balances to the limit are on your credit. And so ultimately, the first thing is you got to have good credit to buy any kind of real estate, okay? That's the first thing that we start with. Second thing, what's your income? I mean, these are all mortgage finance questions that are pretty important. Why? Because if you're looking to buy a vacation home, I hope that you have bought your own home first, or have maybe been through the experience of being a responsible borrower or homeowner. Now, not always is the case. Like, I'm not saying, and we can talk more about this, that you have to own a house that you've lived in or whatever before you buy your first home. And if that can't be a vacation rental, of course you can, the sky's the limit. Whatever you believe out there is something that can, you can accomplish. But typically, identifying the different barriers and the different items. So first, how's your job? How's your employment? What's your income like? What is the debt to income ratio of your current situation before you even consider the new payment on the new long-term or short-term investment? And what you'll find is if you're working with somebody responsible, trying to make sure that you're, not overcommitting, not over, getting a little bit excited. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. So if you're making $10,000 a month and you're living with your parents and you're not having any rent that you're paying, and or utilities, and you're stockpiling cash, okay? You just graduated college, like a year or 2 ago. You got a great job, great career. And you know what? Heck, you want to buy real estate. Well, wouldn't it be great, especially if you're one that likes to travel, maybe have a job that, permits you to travel all over the world and work remote from home. Buying a home that could be a vacation rental that you live in, sparingly throughout the year, or you live in maybe even half or the majority of the year, and you are able to rent as well when you're not there, that can be done. Now, licensed professional managers like Utah's Best Vacation Rentals, or many others that come to mind, probably won't want to bring that home on and manage it for you. It might be something that you end up managing on your own. But ultimately, once your finances are in order, you got enough down payment, you identify what home you'd like to either buy. If it's a second home that you want to buy as an investment, okay, well, it's all about finding out what the individual needs and wants are, and then finding somebody that can bring those together for you and find you and successfully negotiate and help you prepare to be successful on the purchase. So how do you get started? The first thing is, let's look at your finances. Let's make sure your job is solid and secure. Are you going to buy this as a first home, a second home? The principle still applies. So we've talked a little bit about that. Now, research is the key. Like anytime you want to be successful at anything, it's who do I know that's doing this, or what information is readily available that I can search online, or different podcasts like this or others. Surround yourself with people that have successfully already done what you're hoping to do. Okay. Now how much time is this going to take? Well, unfortunately, if you don't know anybody that's doing it, you might have to go to the research, right? And if you want to minimize risk, you research more. Okay. That's one thing that, I always advise people to do. It doesn't matter what age. You'd be shocked at how many people just don't understand the concept of you shouldn't buy it if, worst case, none of it happens the way you hope and you think it will, that you can't afford to carry that liability. Okay. Now, it should be an asset, but we've learned through years past that the market can tank and you can be left holding the bag on what used to be an asset that now becomes like a boat anchor. So how do I get started? Well, I wish there was an easy way to summarize it, but I'm going to give it a shot. Get pre-approved, know your finances, know your credit, and identify if you have the time and the resources to do research on homes that are coming on the market for sale, or if you have the time to door knock or research different homes that you're interested in, find the owners of these homes. You can go to the public records. You can go get the addresses of the homes you're interested in and do Google searches, or talk to a local title company, get the name and number or name and address of the mailing address of that owner if that's not the where they actually live, right? If it's an investment. So identify who owns these houses. If you don't have a realtor and there's not homes that are actually on the market right now, owners that I represent on the management side are telling me they get calls almost weekly about their vacation homes from other investors or buyers that want to buy their house. And by the way, a lot of buyers right now that are successful are paying cash. And so and I talk about that with these buyers who inquire about buying a vacation home. The first thing I'm looking for is how likely is this buyer going to succeed, and how much time should I invest in this conversation, which is part of the reason I'm doing this podcast, because they are looking for me for guidance, and I want to make sure that they're successful. Their time's valuable, and so is mine. And how do we fill each other out and make sure that we're in alignment and we believe that both of us can be successful together? So right now is a really tough time. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the fifth question. So do you have to be a home buyer in order to get started in the vacation rental business? And I'm going to say you do not. There are plenty of people out there across the country that actually don't own any of the homes that they rent. Now, when I got in the business, the market tanked. I had 45 rental properties that were all long-term. 4 of them were vacant, all at the same time. I was going to launch one, but I ended up taking a lot of cash. It was very uncomfortable for me and my family at the time. After the market tanked, my income plummeted. And, I put about $75,000 of cash. Like, I took it right out of my safe, okay? And I bought furniture with it. And my wife was like, "What in the world are you doing?" Well, if she wasn't at the time a homemaker and had never worried about bills or income or, living an uncomfortable life financially, then I probably wouldn't have been able to get away with it, to be honest, because it was a bit risky. And but the same concept applies. Like, it's one thing buying a vacation rental. Is it furnished the way that it needs to be to being a successful nightly rental? Is it in the condition that it will need to be a successful rental? People are going to be paying high premiums to rent from you to get the kind of cash flow everybody thinks is available, which it is, but the home needs to be in good shape. Why? So they don't have maintenance problems. This is a 365-day business. And unfortunately, one of the cons of this business, especially if you're going to be managing on your own, and one of the cons of being a property manager on nightly rentals, is our vacations and our holidays are no longer the same. Our guests are getting to celebrate with their friends and family, like national holidays, just like July 4th and President's Day and Easter and, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. These are all huge revenue generating times, right? Well, I used to have a great time during those days as a manager, and as an owner of a vacation home. If you're managing it yourself, those are no longer pleasant holidays, or as pleasant, unless your home is dialed in, unless it is in great shape and everything's working the way it should, and you do preventative maintenance, and also it's nice and newer the better. But ultimately, you want to try, as an owner of a vacation home, try and prevent any possible thing that could disrupt the guest experience or your own life. You want everything to go smooth, and you want to get 5-star reviews, and you want the guests ultimately to come back. So those are a lot of different things that we've discussed. And I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. There's just so much. But hopefully that gives you an idea of what it takes to get started, and what kind of time commitment that you can expect. And we'll talk briefly about how do you manage a vacation home and make side income if you don't have credit, if you don't have a savings account, if you don't have a house, and if you just have extra time on my hands, right? Well, it's kind of hard unless you know somebody, a friend, a relative, or somebody that actually owns a house in an area that people want to travel to. It's hard to actually make any money at it unless you do enough research and grow the confidence, if you will, to take a risk like this. Okay, here's a scenario. Uncle Johnny just inherited a house, okay, from a relative that passed on, and it's like a new house. It's perfectly furnished. It even has a hot tub and actually a private pool in the back. Well, Johnny's a construction worker and works full time and is a workaholic, and he's got no time or experience in real estate. Okay. He's inherited this house, doesn't know what to do with it, doesn't know anything about renting or vacation rentals or what it takes. Okay. But he's sitting on a gold mine. Well, Johnny, and you might be his favorite nephew. All right. Well, you've been working on learning how to become a good Airbnb manager. And you've been waiting for the opportunity, right, to strike where, holy cow, I've got all my education. I've read everything you can on Airbnb and VRBO and Google, and watched YouTube videos, and I've listened to podcasts, and I know what my pricing strategy is going to be. I know the importance of bed counts and how many, the value I'm going to offer, with having 14 guests versus the competition might be 10 or 12. I know how important a pool is, especially a private one, and a hot tub. And I know all these different things and statistics. I'm just looking for a house that's furnished to get into the mix. Well, I say, Uncle Johnny, I want to help you bring in some cash flow on your house. Okay. And here's what we're going to do. You come up with a simple agreement that you are going to manage that home on behalf of Johnny, and you're going to pay him 75% or 70% or 50%, or some are 10, 15, 20% of the gross nightly rentals. Okay. And you're going to essentially act, once you have a signed agreement, to act on behalf of that owner. Okay. You're going to go ahead and create a new Airbnb listing. And maybe if you're really feeling ambitious, you also pay the $4.99 or so to subscribe and create a VRBO listing. Those are the two major websites that will readily accept your home into their pool of different homes across the world. Okay, the most reputable. There's all kinds of others like Flipkey and Turnkey and other managers and different things. You can go on KSL, which is a Utah free ad. But ultimately, now that you got a contract, now that you've got an opportunity, and the home is, maybe it's not perfect, but it's good enough, you can go ahead and start marketing that property online and taking reservations for that home. Hopefully you're confident that the home's paid for, or there's not going to be any interruption. You have a contract and you're good to go. So you offer this house for another guest and family who've got reviews on Airbnb or VRBO, and you basically become the host and you book these vacations, and you essentially start bringing in revenue. Okay, I mean, you'll be shocked if it's a desirable home in a desirable area. You didn't have to put one penny out of your pocket. You never had to do a credit repair or credit check. No down payment. And what are you doing? You're helping your Uncle Johnny. Are you kidding me? Who doesn't know like a favorite Uncle Johnny or somebody known Johnny? Are you kidding? So that is kind of a cool way to get into this business. And, you know, some people oversell and underdeliver. I would actually spend more time learning how to do it right. But sometimes, you know, if the right situation comes along and people have these amazing assets and aren't pressed for money and mortgage payments and all these utility payments and such, you can learn, you know, trial and error. Sometimes that's the best way to learn. But that's one way you can get involved in vacation rentals without owning a house. And when they come and they stay, Airbnb deposits the money right into your bank account, and you can virtually just Venmo the money right over to your uncle on the departure of every guest and stay. Once they do their reviews, it's basically done, and the transaction's over with, and everybody's happy. So you generate $2,000 on the first stay of 5 nights, you know, $400 a night, and you give Johnny 1,000 of it, or you give him 1,700, whatever the deal is. And holy smokes, you just made $1,000 or whatever the difference is. And you get to do that over and over and over. And so many things that contribute to that process and which houses are going to be the best. And there's so much information now out there. In fact, Airbnb and VRBO, a while back, they used to just be listing sites. And now they are definitely for profit. They went corporate. They have shareholders now. HomeAway owns VRBO, and obviously Airbnb is now a publicly traded company. And when they did that, one of the challenges is that all the fees and all the costs went up. And not only that, but what they did is they restructured things. So renters now pay the fee to rent homes on Airbnb and VRBO. They pay the fee. If you think about it, owners are being charged on VRBO the annual prescription or subscription. And so the renters pay too, and that's corporate America for you. And it's not a bad thing. It's just it's a lot more expensive if you're a renter to rent homes on Airbnb and VRBO versus finding a reputable property management company that has multiple homes on maybe their own direct website. And you know what? There's ways to make sure they're reputable. First, do they have social media? Do they have their own website? Those are huge. Okay. Well, what do their websites look like? What do their social media look like? Do they have good reviews on their website? Do they have good reviews on Airbnb and VRBO? For example, you go and find one of Utah's best listings of one of our 100+ homes, and you can see how many homes we actually manage right there. And you can see how many reviews our homes have had over how many years of time. And so different owners of homes can also manage multiple houses, and it shows you on VRBO and Airbnb. And so that can be helpful. You go to Google to find local vacation rental management companies that actually are reputable, and you can literally Google, I'm coming to Salt Lake City, for example, vacation rental homes in Salt Lake City. And any reputable vacation rental company, whether they have paid ads or ideally have organic links to their own website, that's a great way to identify a company that you trust to do business with, that you can book direct with them and avoid the Airbnb 10 to 13% fees that you may or may not even know that you've been paying for years. Same thing with VRBO. So there's all these different variables, and people think, hey, if I book with Airbnb, I get this coverage or this insurance or this third party. And the same thing with VRBO. The interesting thing is most people don't even know that I own my own vacation home, that I'm allowing a management company to manage, who markets on these websites on my behalf and on their behalf. They think VRBO owns the house, or Airbnb. I mean, it's the craziest thing ever. I mean, literally people have no clue in general how this all works. And this is kind of the reason I'm doing podcasts and trying to get this information out there, so I can not just help the owners or the wannabe owners and buyers, but there's a lot to learn as a guest and as a traveler. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine having all this knowledge and years of experience to help navigate how to find direct bookings from different property managers who are local to where I want to go, and save all this money and preserve my vacation and my experience, versus going anywhere in the country and literally taking the risk of renting a home from Airbnb who's owned by somebody who may be other than the actual owner renting it on their behalf, and trusting my entire vacation. In some cases, people vacation once or twice a year, and their entire family gets together on that one time for maybe a week. That's a big deal. Like, it's so important to preserve those experiences. And that's one of the things that I love about the vacation business. One, I can own real estate. I can be an investor in real estate. I can rent the home, and I can cash flow the home. I get to choose which homes I buy. I get to choose on how I furnish those homes. I get to choose what amenities I want to equip them with, whether they're games, like foosball, whether they're, multiple flat screens, and I got the Wii and the Xbox, and I got the PlayStation. I got all these great games. I might have a ping pong table in the garage or some arcade games. I have the ability to choose what experience I want my guests to enjoy. And some things cost more money, but unfortunately, those that cut corners end up risking the guest experience and maybe 3-star reviews versus 5-star. And maybe, the customer doesn't want to come back because they didn't quite have as good of an experience as what they felt that they paid for. So these are all really important things that we deal with every day. So hopefully that helps to answer some of those questions and provide some wisdom and value there.